gather with like-minded souls that have the sight and the vision of a bit of what's going on, you know, and can really be there together and support each other as we figure out how it's all going to unfold and what our roles are. It's just so precious. And we've got an incredible, beautiful crowd here. We've got a whole crowd on Zoom. So I welcome everyone that's here on Zoom so much, with so much heart. And this is an experiment. This is a 360-degree camera that was given by my tech guru, John Mitchell, if you remember, John Mitchell. So it will tune into whoever's talking and zero in on them and make sure they're on camera and pick them up. So the goal of the meeting is for us to, you know, what's the truth? And to come together in our hearts and share. And, you know, this could go on for days, so, as you know. But we are so blessed to have Foster Gamble with us on Zoom to be with us tonight. So what we'll do tonight is we'll start with a prayer because we want to bring in sacred space. This is a temple. We've hosted a lot of sacred gatherings in here. And this is the only second one that I've done since COVID. We did one gathering like this last month. It was really beautiful. And these are my cohorts. This is Spruce, who's been around the block with his vision, knows what's going on about things. And she's been on the block. It's right there with it all. So these are two incredible people, Sujata and Spruce, who are here holding space because they know a lot about what's going on behind the scenes. And also the goal of this meeting for me is not to get so granular on what's going on, but really understand what's happening at a higher level so that we are really taking all this incredible, what I call showtime, what we came here for, and really birthing forward the new earth. That's really what we're here to do. And this is a incredible time where all the dysfunction is coming up. Everyone knows now. We've been knowing for a long time. I'm sure many of you have known all this going on. Have you seen the show Inside Job on Netflix? Yeah. It's amazing. It is an adult cartoon with reptilians and robotic presidents, and everything that has come out is in the cartoon. So, I think Inside Job. Yeah. To me, a lot of this is coming up, and everyone's kind of knowing what's going on and how it is all to unfold is up to us, I think. So, anything you want to say before we start? Okay.
Carry on.
Press the button. That's actually what it is.
Okay.
Perfect.
So, welcome everyone on Zoom. It's so great to have you. And we're all a part of community here, this new community that we are moving forward with. And I want to honor Scott Katamas, who is helping to coordinate the Zoom. So thank you, Scott.
Thanks,
so much
Scott.
love to you for volunteering to support like you do so many times. And I'd like us just to start opening up sacred space and grounding our energy into Mama Gaia. She is such a source of energy and nutrition and so much love. And, she's, yes? Okay. Everyone on Zoom, if you could please mute, that would be really great. And even Dr. Mistress Future is here. Wonderful. And let's just open up our hearts. That is one of the main things that we're here to do, is learn to live in our heart, no matter what's going on, what's coming down, which looks like chaos or going backwards. Living in our hearts and being from our hearts is really what this new earth is about. And I invite us to open up to spirit, to allow the higher vision, to allow for the support of the higher guidance that is guiding us towards this new earth right now that we have come here. We've all chosen to be born at this amazing time to help birth. And we're so grateful for the awareness that we have, for the dedication that we have, for the love that we have for each other and for this mission. And with such gratitude and support, I open up this incredible gathering of love and wisdom and community. And I'd love to do a quick presencing of everyone. So if you could please give your name, where you're from, and just one phrase just to gather everyone here. And I'm Debra, I'm from this temple, and these are exciting times, and I'm really on board for whatever it brings, like I've always been. I'm totally here.
I'm Spruce, live here in Sebastopol. And yes, we're navigating and surfing these wild waves. Hang in there.
I'm Marjorie, also from Sebastopol, and grateful for what's coming down this term, where we're going.
I'm Angela from Sebastopol, and again, very grateful to be present in this moment and with such companions along the road. Sorry.
I'm Ron. I'm sometimes associated with Sonoma, and I'm just feeling like I'm so grateful to see that people are approaching this from the vibrational place now instead of from the confrontation with the shadow and the error consciousness and all the stuff that's there, because I think that's really, this reminds me of my first commune I was in.
My name's Heather, and I live in South Sebastopol, and kind of like newly awakened with COVID. It woke me up, so feeling clear finally. Fog is gone. Glad to be here.
Gabriel, and I live in Santa Rosa, and I'm really liking these types of groups, like-minded and like-hearted. So it's good to be here.
My name is Douglas Kanye, live here in Sebastopal. And one of the flags that I fly under is KISS, keep it simple, sweetheart.
I'm Ariel from Sebastopol, and I am very happy to be with all of you and happy to be alive during this time.
I'm John from the south side of Sebastopol. Yeah, it's great to be here. It's great to be alive in these times. It's scary and wonderful. Not so scary, but it's wonderful. We're going to break through the wall.
I'm Harley. I'm from Sebastopol, and I'm just very, very grateful for this fellowship and be able to share and have the reassurance that I'm not crazy.
My name is Peter. I'm from Sebastopol. And since this is all about the truth, I just want to make the statement that the truth will prevail.
I am Premo. I am from Sebastopol. It's just really beautiful to be seeing so many beautiful people on the same page of waking up and wanting to not just know the truth, but to create something new on this planet that brings more joy to everyone. That's what I'm excited about.
I'm Vidya, and I'm from Sebastopol, actually almost around the corner. Very nice. And I am just thrilled to be here during these times. I mean, this is what we've been waiting for, guys. You know? It's just really, really exciting for me. Christina Delgado from Center Fell, and yeah, we signed up for this a long time ago, and it's our frequency and awareness, and that we brought forth this whole epic journey to birth this new amazing Gaia that's being birthed. And birthing isn't always an easy journey. I've been through it. So it's exciting, and a miracle comes out of it.
I'm Linda. I live in San Anselmo, and I've known for over 40 years that this new world was coming and to be part of the creation of it. And I know that's why I'm here. I did not have a clue that it would be kind of instigated in a big, intense way, like how it's coming about. That was like, but the teacher I worked with for a long time was always talking to us about being willing to be with the unknown and how important it was to be okay with the unknown. And boy, that's really coming in handy now. But there is something I know, and I know that love and light will prevail. They already are, and it feels incredible to be putting my energy into my dreams, into the new world that is actually already here. So great to be here. Great to be here with all of you.
My name is Lonner, and it's great to see a few familiar faces and a whole lot of new ones coming from Santa Fe. And when I look around the room and I feel into who is here, new people and familiar people, I am imagining into how much life experience there is in this room, and I am humbled. And then when I think about epigenetic reality and wisdom, I am overjoyed.
Thank you. I'm Yamini, and I'm from Somerville as well. And these people are my family. But I really feel I'm home here. Looking at all these faces, some of them I've seen you 2 years ago, maybe. And yeah, it feels really good. And thank you so much for getting this together for us.
I'm Erica. I'm honored to be here. This is my first time here. I was invited by you here. And I feel honored to help bring the heart frequency to the masses that need it most. So,
I'm Erin from Sebastopol, and I'm just going to say I'm ready for a shift, ready for the shift. Let's bring it on.
I'm Kent. I live in Sebastopol, and I'm glad to not be alone in this. And I really appreciate that Sebastopol in particular, there's somebody in every corner of Sebastopol, it appears, and even down in San Rafael that I can relate to.
Hi, I'm Sujata, Sebastopol. We got this. Might not feel how we wanted to all the time, but I have no doubt we prevail in the end, so it's going to be biblical.
Gonna be.
My name is Philip. I'm from Nevada. Part of Marine Freedom Rising. So I know several of you. I'm just thrilled to be here. I thank you so much for opening your space to us. And, I don't think I've seen this many smiling faces in the room for a while. It's just, it's great. And it's really, I just feel so happy to be here. Thank you.
My name is Debra. I'm also from Sebastopol. I'm just grateful for the community and for the tribe and for our mission. I'm glad to not be alone.
Yeah.
I'm Marianne. I almost forgot, and I apologize for being late. But I had someone to remind me to come and get it. And Pavilion is in the house, so we're representing somewhere else. And I'm feeling really good about where we are and what's going on and what's possible. And I'm feeling like the whole cosmos is actually opening up to us in ways that we had no idea, that everything that we've been through, everything that we've been through is serving us for this moment to make this gigantic leap. And it's just very exciting. So. Let's do it.
My name is Nyla. Are you Deborah?
Yeah.
You're the one that organized the Health and Harmony Festival.
That's it.
I know, we've known each other for many lifetimes. So my name's Nyla, and I like this, what a couple of y'all have said about community. Community is healthy. We're pack animals, us humans, and this feels so good to, just as like somebody said, to see smiling faces. Duh, you know.
Where do you live now?
Santa Rosa.
And there's a backdrop there for you.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Support. Crystal, I'm from Brentwood. And I feel really blessed to be here.
Welcome everyone, and welcome everyone on Zoom. Let's just love everyone on Zoom. We have 34 people on Zoom. I just invited a few people. So this is a 360-degree camera. Wow. That was loaned to us for the evening. So whoever speaks will be put on camera. It will pick up whoever the sound is.
So if you're whispering to your friend.
And I want to thank Scott Thomas, who is managing the Zoom, who's my partner on Saturday Night Alive. Do you want to say hi, Scott?
Hello, everybody. Once again, Deborah's right on the cutting edge of what's new with a 360-degree camera. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think we're all looking forward to hearing what Foster has to share, because he really has his pulse, his hand on the pulse of what's happening. So,
yeah. And I think everyone on Zoom could introduce themselves, but I think we want to feel our love right now. We're so happy you're with us, and this is a new way to play, so we can all be together. And eventually we'll all be holograms sitting together. But I want to give time to Foster now.
Yes.
I don't think he needs too much of an introduction, because he's been a light worker for the truth his whole life, as far as I know, as we've seen, and he's really brought out the truth in so many ways with his Thrive movie, with his solution hubs, with everything he's done. We just love him. We just support him and love him. So, Foster, are you ready to come on and share with us?
Sure, it would be a delight.
Okay, we got him.
Wow. This is such an honor and truly a joy. I don't want to talk for too long because I want to get into the group conversation. I feel so uplifted just hearing the introductions, to feel such strength in the room. The strength to confront the truth, the strength to risk your reputation in your social community, the strength to handle the emotions that come up, the more truth you realize, and then the strength to step up and enjoy life, to actually be thriving while dealing with all this stuff. And the spirit in this group is exactly what will have us prevail. And I'm privileged to be connected with thousands of groups all over the world. And this is what I'm seeing. This is the hologram that is fractalized all over the planet right now. I live in Santa Cruz, and Santa Cruz has been a very leftist political environment for a long time. And then the left started to get taken over by the Chinese Communist Party in all sorts of ways. And I've watched people not leave the left, but have the left leave them. And more people are transcending this illusion that we should be fighting over who should rule us. And so in Santa Cruz, in the last 2 years, since this particular scamdemic got started, there are at least 3 major freedom groups, which each got started with like 8 people sitting around a campfire on a beach, or 10 people in somebody's living room, and within 2 months, they had over 500 people on their social media page. And it used to be, we had a Solutions Hub 1.0 back in, starting in around 2013. And it was mostly single issue groups. There were chemtrail groups and GMO groups and banking scheme groups. And now what I'm seeing is those kinds of groups are now all over the world, but they're fundamentally truth and freedom groups. And that's really powerful to me. Those of you who've seen Thrive 2, raise your hand if you've seen Thrive 2. Okay, actually, I can only see is there any way, John, or Scott, that I can continue to see any of the 360? I love this camera. Yeah, when I can see that, it's really great, because that's it, yeah. I have never experienced this before, and it's an absolute delight to be able to see several different small groups and then to see the panorama as well. And speaking of the panorama, Debra, congratulations on creating the temple. I've just been following remotely the news about the buying of the temple, the remodeling of the temple, the opening of the temple. And, when Debra sets her mind and heart on something, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen well, and it's going to grow beyond anybody's dreams. And I can see that happening already. So Debra, thank you for doing that and for starting this group. One of the things that I have always really treasured about Debra is she's a fellow bridge builder. She's been willing to have, 1 foot in the transformational movement, 1 foot in the consciousness movement, 1 foot in the New Age movement, 1 foot in the conspiracy. Deborah's got a lot of feet, and so she can have one in all these different movements. And that takes courage. It takes the courage to keep confronting what she thinks is true, and then to be willing to do the dance. Kimberly and I call it the taffy pull. We want to stretch people in the direction of the truth, but not necessarily so far that the taffy breaks. And Debra is brilliant, Scott as well, particularly on Saturday Night Alive, of just dancing far enough into topics that a lot of people can keep up and do their own discovery. And so she's not trying to water a plant with a fire hose. And that's a major skill these days. How many times have each of us who do know a lot about what's going on just gone way overboard in trying to cram the truth down somebody's throat? If that's happened to you, raise your hand.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all learning, and it's a really important skill to be able to have a respectful conversation and honor someone else's perception of truth, even when it doesn't agree with yours. Kimberly's been a real inspiration to me recently, because we're each going through things with our family. We've got, people who think we're totally crazy and just drank the Kool-Aid. We have no idea what we're talking about. There's others who, despite our warnings, have gone and gotten vaccinated. And Kimberly's been an inspiration in terms of keep love primary. Even when you don't agree, it's more important to stay connected and then allow each of you to develop in your own truth than it is to just arbitrarily trash a friendship or trash a family relationship because people are at different stages in terms of what they perceive to be true. So it's a real honor to be with you. And I just want to share a few reflections that came to mind when Debra invited me to show up tonight for this. There are a lot of things that I don't need to say with this group that customarily I would say. Oftentimes with the group, I'll ask, okay, if you think that the Warren Commission told the truth about JFK, and you think the 9/11 Commission told the truth about 9/11, and you think there were weapons of mass destruction, raise your hand. So go ahead and raise your hand if you think all of those were true. Okay, not a lot of raising hand activity in the temple. And that's what I assumed would be true for your group. So we can just, jump right into the deep end, particularly in relation to COVID. I want to start with a quote. I don't have any slideshow. I just want to talk with you tonight, but I collected a couple of things. There's a quote from my favorite philosopher, a man named Stefan Molyneux, where he says, there's nothing that is going to make people hate you more and love you more than telling the truth. And I really know what he's talking about. And another thing that I ended up saying on a show recently that some people have been quoting that just came through as obvious to me in the moment was, it's not spiritual to ignore reality. We've gotten, since the Thrive 1 came out, we've gotten videos and texts and emails from spiritual teachers and interdimensional beings, channeled entities, ascended masters from literally all over the world and all over the cosmos, thanking us for being willing to tell the truth about the uncomfortable aspects of reality right now. And we found that particularly encouraging that this was coming from some of the most advanced spiritual teachers. Because if you think spirituality is just meditating on your navel and watching your breath and being all lovey-dovey and everything, all that's great. But if it's at the cost of ignoring reality, then it's very, very dangerous. And I've been part of the consciousness movement for going on 50 years. So I've been around and I've seen a lot of what's gone on. And one of the most exciting things to me right now is seeing that the truth movement, the conspiracy movement, whatever you want to call that aspect, is really blending with the consciousness movement. And it's causing a lot of upheaval in yoga studios, in spiritual groups and so forth. But that's exactly the upheaval that is necessary, because when the Christian conservatives come together with the conspiracy wackos like me, and they come together with the consciousness movement, and that's what's happening. And those are vast, vast groups. So just in the United States alone, that's probably what, 150 to 200 million people. And it's happening because it's coming together not around a presidential candidate, not around some policy of how the people who are stealing our money as taxes are going to go out and pretend to spend it. It's coming together around what's really going on and what can we do about it. In my history of activism, the main thing that I found, the real kind of key truth, is that when something's wrong, there is a big lie going on. And the key is to find the seed truth that shines the light into that big lie. And many years ago, I was living on a ranch up in La Honda, and we were invited to a town hall meeting with our local congressperson. And it was announced that they were going to be buying all of our ranches and farms. That was the bad news. The good news was they were going to turn it into a giant park. This was going to be the extension of the GGNRA that you have up in Marin. And I think the GGNRA is fantastic. However, California's already got more parkland than any state in the union, and they weren't giving us a choice. They were telling us they were going to take our land and give us some sort of price for it. The second time they had the meeting, most of the ranchers came with shotguns sitting across their knees and said, "Over our dead bodies, are you going to take our 5th generation ranch?" And so the drama began, and it just smelled bad to me. It didn't feel authentic. And I had been part of an activist movement keeping offshore drilling off of the North Coast around the Bay Area. And I thought to myself, aha, you know, because I had seen some of this scheme of taking parkland and then leasing it out to the oil companies and so forth. And I thought, okay, maybe that's the way they're trying to get to the oil. So I took a couple of buddies and we went down to Menlo Park to the geological survey down there and started going through the microfilm. And we finally found exactly what we were looking for. We found an oil and gas exploration map that covered millions of acres between Santa Cruz and Half Moon Bay. And it was an exactly precise overlay for the land that they were going to take. So the next meeting, I came with a little slideshow and presented that to the congressperson. And he was actually a friend of mine. Someone I knew and respected, Pete McCloskey. And I watched his face very carefully when I presented that information. And his jaw dropped. And he said, Foster, I promise you, I did not know this. He said, I will go back to Washington and I will do everything in my power to stop this. We never heard from them again. This was billions and billions of dollars in a covert operation, but we sensed the big lie and then we found the seed truth and then it went away. The same thing is happening now with COVID. I think it's clear to probably all of you who are sitting in that room that there are a huge pack of lies. But the fundamental lie is that we need to be afraid and we need to deny our own immune system and our own scientists and our own doctors rather than have an open, honest conversation. Well, okay, if we're in trouble, what's really going on? Let's get the best and the brightest and, you know, globally stream a great conversation. Well, no, you wouldn't need this kind of censorship if that were the intention. And now it's coming out. I wrote a paper after a year of research. I wrote a paper on this called COVID-19, Where the Real Sickness Lies and How We Can Heal It. It's available on our website if anybody's interested. It's pretty extensive, but it'll save you a lot of time. And that was last December that came out. Now the things that I was citing and predicting are coming true. That the virus has never been isolated. The tests are fake. The CDC has admitted that. The death numbers are fake. That's been admitted. The vaccine is actually a bioweapon. The spike protein is the killer. And I'm telling you, I've had 3 friends and children of friends die already just in the last month. And I'm collecting information on injury and on death, and it's horrifying. It's in the millions already in deaths worldwide, and it's only beginning to start. It's exactly what we were afraid that it was going to be. So my main message to my friends and relatives and anybody who will listen is, if you don't already understand that we are under attack, that this is World War III, and it was the same culprits. This is the rise of the Fourth Reich. This is the global deep state, and they will stop at nothing to reduce the population by 80% and be in total control when that's completed. And they will stop at nothing, but we can stop them. I also am hugely confident that this thing is already turning around and that we will win it. Yes. The truth and love and the life force will prevail. It's unstoppable. So I'm just dedicating my efforts to making it as peaceful as possible. I think we could actually win this thing without firing a shot, but it's going to take tremendous organization and collaboration and courage on the part of individuals like yourselves, just being willing to have those conversations and being willing to share the information that you know. And ultimately, what we're doing, what we're focusing on now in the Thrive movement, as Debra mentioned, is we're launching the Thrive Solutions Hub 2.0. And we had a 1.0 that was already had 1,100 groups in 90 countries around the world. They were taking on hundreds of issues and having a lot of success with it. Then that dwindled a little bit because Kimberly and I spent 5 years traveling around the world looking for, inspecting the cancer cures, the shamans, the new energy devices and so forth that ended up becoming Thrive 2. Well, we're back home now, and the need is greater than ever for a decentralized, open source web app that allows people to collaborate, to find each other locally or virtually anywhere in the world, and then to collaborate on real ethical solutions. And also to share best practices, so not everybody's having to reinvent the same petitions and lawsuits and funding strategies and all that stuff that we saw all these groups were having to do on their own. That's why we initially created the Solutions Hub. And now there are groups, we're working with Bobby Kennedy and the Children's Health Defense. We're working with a bunch of America's frontline doctors and a number of other groups. We're just in beta testing right now. We're keeping it small and by invitation right now. There's about 50 groups and about 500 individuals. And we're just getting feedback from them on making it really user-friendly. So you literally have your solutions dashboard to be connected with ethical solutionaries anywhere in the world, to follow their groups, what they're doing, to be able to reach out to one another. It's literally a dream come true for me. And so in working with these groups who are under tremendous threat right now, particularly the frontline doctors, we saw that we needed to be even more secure and encrypted. And so we think we'll be able to launch the public version by late January or early February. And it will not only allow you to do what we were just talking about, but also you can do encrypted text messaging, encrypted document sharing, and encrypted video conferencing. Because like with Children's Health Defense, the lawyers were spending so much time and money and just hassle, stressing over how can we have a private conversation that the bad guys are not listening to. So they are thrilled to be in the Thrive Solutions Hub where they can do all of that, as mostly people are working on honing their own groups and just now beginning to reach out to other groups around the world. So I want to also say, someone said in the group, can't remember who it was, some woman said, what an incredible time it was to be alive. I totally agree. Each one who is in this conversation, we have come through lifetimes for this. There has never been a moment, at least in recorded human history, like this, where the entire species survival is on the line. And at the same time, the wake up is so fast right now. I mean, I hate to say it, I wouldn't have written the script this way, but I guess cosmically speaking, it had to get this bad for billions of people to go, wait a minute, I don't want anybody ruling me. I don't want anybody telling me what I have to stick in my child's body. I don't want anybody telling me whether or not I can keep my business open or gather with my spiritual community. And so I guess it had to get this bad to have a global awakening. And what the statistics that I'm seeing, it's about 50-50, somewhere between 40 to 60%, have kind of really bought the line, have gotten their vaccines and so forth. And even a lot of them are now beginning to question and waking up. But the others worldwide are now creating a pushback, the like of which humanity has never seen before. And I'm personally kind of glad that it's starting in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, because the bad news down there is that, the Queen took away their guns. So they're unarmed. And I think that's why they're starting the big police state measures there. However, and I just did a show on this with Max Egan and Ricardo Bozzi last weekend, getting reports from the front lines in Australia. And people are getting so creative there You know, the truckers are getting together and blocking the roads around Melbourne unless they get rid of the mask the mask mandates and the vaccine mandates for the truckers, which they did. But of course, it needs to be more than the trucker. So now the doctors and nurses are standing up and doing literally locking arms in big flash mobs. And the teachers are doing the same thing. And this is happening in Germany and the UK and Italy, and it's happening in China. It's happening in Singapore. It's just phenomenal. So the best thing we can figure to do right now is provide the platform where anybody who wants to in the truth community worldwide can link up. They can start a group, they can find a group, they can join their group with other groups, they can share resources and so forth. And I believe that this will be unstoppable. This is not a competitive thing. It's like, oh, use our social media. No, we're connecting with all sorts of social media networks, truth tellers around the world. And so it's just a synergy. This is not some kind of cutthroat competition. The market for eyeballs that need to hear the truth is unlimited right now, unfortunately. So we're super excited that this, at this time that we're seeing humanity stepping up. You're not going to read it in the mainstream news, but it is happening all over the world. I'm writing an article right now called Silver Linings Plandemic. And there are so many great things that are happening that, again, I wouldn't have written the script, but given that this is coming down the way it's coming down, what's going on with alternative schooling, with people growing their own food, with the truth media, with holistic medicine. You know, there are private membership associations springing up where doctors and nurses who are getting fired for not taking the vaccine are just creating private health groups and just starting to take care of their communities. I could go on, but I think you all know a lot of this. I just wanted to give you a kind of 30,000 foot from my perspective, what I see going on. And it's all around your topic. What is truth? What is the truth of what's going on? And I personally believe that there is an objective reality. And that's a fuzzy thing to define. By that, I mean that I can go out and perceive the moon. And when I die, I think that moon's going to still be doing its thing. So there's that kind of, there's something going on. Now, I don't believe there are actually any things in the universe. It's just, I've studied very intensely, okay, what are cells and molecules and atoms? They're just these whirlpool vortices in an infinite sea of energy. So I don't believe that there are things. However, there are patterns that we call planets and galaxies and people and extraterrestrials and all this stuff that are very real, and we create our interpretation of them all the time. As members of the unified field, we're creating the whole thing, and at the same time, there is an objective reality independent of yours and my imagination that we are a part of. And this is part of what I think the consciousness movement is needing to open more to, and it's coming in a really difficult pill to swallow. And that pill's red. And a lot of people are taking the red pill and waking up. So I don't want to go on any longer. I just want to be a part of the conversation. I'm happy to take any questions. I just want to hear what everyone has to offer into this conversation. So I think I'll just thank you for your attention for these moments. And I think I'll end by saying that it was Aristotle who said truth leads to virtue, which leads to happiness. And I think that's the formula for planet Earth right now. So thank you for your attention. Now, let me just be part of the group.
Hi, it's Maureen from Australia. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. We had the news this morning. I was listening to Rossi, sorry, I'm just trying to turn my phone off. I was listening to Ricardo this morning with regards to what is happening in behind the scene and all that business. And as you may not be aware, or you might be, we've got a parliament coming up, our local government parliament coming up within the next month, and then May next year. Emotionally, we've got John Larter and Graham Hood, and I'm sorry about being sideways, but I'm not worried about it. John Larter and Graham Hood, who is, you know, the pilot that's been laid off, a paramedic of 20, 30 years who's literally been laid off and has to pay all the court costs because the government actually, he's been screwed literally by our Supreme Courts. The saddest thing about it is we got a message this morning from the Northern Territory of the elders screaming out because the military is actually landing there, going door to door, and those that are jabbed or being jabbed at their doors, and then also, and it's emotional. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're being removed from their own land and taken somewhere, and they don't know where they're taken. So someone's stepping in on their land, not allowing them to be buried their way, to be respected. They are literally tormenting and taking over the Northern Territory. How do we help them stop this?
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I can feel what you're going through around it. And this is what I talked with Max and Ricardo about. And I asked them, I said, what can the rest of us learn from what you all are going through? And then ultimately, what can we do about it where we live? And what can we do to help those of you who are on the front line? Ricardo, for those of you who don't know him, he's a retired 25 years in the Special Forces. This guy has got skills. He's a delightful human being. He's an amazing intellect, and he's really committed to the non-aggression principle, to nonviolence, except if you have to protect yourself. And so he shared with us a little bit on the show that he's working on 6 different strategies, only 2 of which he was at liberty to divulge. One of them is a political strategy. They're starting a whole new political party based on the principles that we're talking about here. Obviously, politics takes longer than some other things and can only go so far. But I think he's doing a fabulous job of creating what's needed as a transition political party. One of his other strategies, then the only thing he could say about it was that they have tremendous amount of information on scores of pedophiles amongst the senior Masons, Freemasons, who are in control, as everywhere. They're in control of a lot of the government there. And that is one of the ways that these people will be taken down. The Asian Dragon families are working on that. Trump has 300,000 sealed indictments for both financial fraud and pedophilia and child trafficking, and that will be coming out. In terms of what to do on the immediate situation, both Max and Ricardo said, watch what's going on here, but then work in your own community. They said, our people are standing up here, and they're, you know, from foreign countries, you can't contribute to a political party in Australia. They are coming out with some projects soon that other people can contribute to, and Ricardo's going to let me know, and I will post that immediately on all of our alternative social media, send out to the networks and so forth through the Solutions Hub. And so we can, if you have extra resources, find out who you can support. But the main thing is find out what's being effective in Australia and do it in your own community. Because if each of the communities is arising, that's what's unstoppable. It's like a whack-a-mole, you know, at the amusement park. The mole keeps coming up in a different hole, and they can't whack them up if there's can't whack them down if there's too many or they're coming up too fast. So I hope that the Australians can remain nonviolent. And I know they're getting prepared. I've heard Zoom calls with some of the top police officers there saying, who are stepping back. They're not participating. They're stepping away from the government agenda and organizing themselves to show up and protect situations just like the one that you're talking about, Maureen. So I don't think I can go much further than that into detail on that particular situation, but this is exactly what our Solutions Hub is intended to do. So something like this happens, the word goes out to solutions networks all over Australia or all over the Northern Territory or all over the world, and then people can send what they have to offer. I think I'll need to leave it there.
Thank you so very, very much. It's greatly appreciated to even hear. And I thank Susan for letting me know that this was on, because I would have missed it. So I really, really appreciate it. And I'm very much part of Thrive On. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, we're with you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I want to say thank you to everyone that's here. It means so much to us to stay strong and be in the heart. I'm here in Santa Cruz. I'm here to support that Solutions Hub. And what I started doing, because there were so many groups, like you said, Foster, that were overlapping with the same information. So I've broken out in groups of 5, and then they can section that off. And I'll get with you and Debra about the Solutions Hub, and I'll be a pillar here. And I've also applied to be an ambassador, a co-ambassador with Children's Health Defense. So what they do is help to organize how we communicate, because the force that we have to be is we have to be really clear, like in how we speak and how we gather. And I did start seeing all of the same messaging, all of the same information coming through all the groups. And I was like, wait a minute, there's important steps that all of these people need to take all at once. And that could be broken out into chapters. And when you start breaking it down like that, we're doing the same thing, but it's more manageable. And that's all I wanted to say, is I'm here actually stepping up. And I didn't know that I wanted to do that, because I'm not really an activist, but I am not stepping down.
Yeah.
You gotta stay strong. So I'm here.
Well, I'm thrilled to know that you're here in Santa Cruz too.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything that you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
So many people that I meet now are saying, I never thought that I would be an activist. I don't care about politics. I'm doing these other things, but I just feel called to do something now. Thank goodness. And sometimes when I meet people who say, well, I just feel kind of hopeless and helpless. I mean, what can one person do against this big agenda and so forth? And I like to remind them that every single person on this call, every single person on this planet was a champion in a swimming race of 60 million swimmers when you were a little sperm. So that's a lot of intention. You were the top dog in 60 million competitors. So it's no accident that you got into a body on this planet at this time. So don't let the indoctrination that they've been doing to us our entire lives to feel hopeless and helpless and outnumbered. It's exactly the opposite. We have everything that it takes. We outnumber the psychopaths way more than 1,000,000 to 1. And so as we step up, they are stepping down already. There's CEO resignations, banker resignations. They're literally trying to take their money, buy their yachts, buy some private land, and disappear because they know that this is coming down.
Thank you.
I'll share a little bit for a moment. First of all, thank you, Foster, for all the work that you're doing.
You're
welcome. I'm a communication guy and a compassion guy. And so this Friday night, actually, I'm hosting an event that I'd like to invite everybody to. And it's how we can be in our personal integrity and talk to each other without going into judgment, without going into enemy images, without blame and shame, whether you're vaxxed or not vaxxed, pro-vax, anti-vax. How can we talk and listen to each other? So I've invited several people I really respect. Of the 5 people, 3 are not vaxxed, 2 are. And we're not going to be talking about whether to or not, but how can we compassionately listen to each other? So I really want to encourage people to join us. That's going to be Friday night at 7:30 p.m. It's part of my Straight Talk series that I do every Friday night. And I think it's important for what we're doing here tonight and what you're talking about.
That is so beautiful, Scott. Thank you for what you're doing. That's really at the heart of the matter. You know, there's some people whose job is to be out there, you know, taking tear gas and rubber bullets and so forth. There are other people whose job is to teach people how to communicate. There are other people whose job is to create the lawsuits or bring the scientific studies and so forth. And what you guys are doing on Saturday Night Alive is just a role model for the entire world. I rarely miss a show, even if I don't catch it live. And it's really helped me to not only learn a lot, but keep my spirits up during difficult times. So thanks for that.
Thank you very much, Foster. Appreciate that. Deborah, are there other people there that might want to speak? If so, you have to unmute.
I'd like to speak for a moment and bring in the whole subject of fear and how it transforms people, really, how it makes people into, I don't know, infants? I'm not sure what word to use, but I live in a 55 plus community, and I'm one of maybe 3 or 4 people out of 400 who has opted to not be vaccinated. And as a result, it's been a very alienating and difficult experience, because when I walk into the room, people that I love and who love me are afraid of me. Mm-hmm. And I'm a very sensitive person. I'm an HSP and I feel it. And it's been very, very difficult for me to keep my frequency up, because I just walk outside and like, ugh, I get blasted. So I'm just fascinated how people who I think of as brilliant have drunk the Kool-Aid. And I'm just really curious what your thoughts are about that.
Wow, it's such a great question. And Kimberly and I talk almost daily about this question of how can so many smart people not get it? And we're trying to come up with a new word, because it's not intelligence, it's not just intelligence, it's not IQ. You know, it's not how fast you can calculate. I think discernment is a much better term. And one of the reasons why I believe that our biggest audience with Thrive 1 and Thrive 2 initially was always with the consciousness movement. And we were surprised by that. But we came to realize that we think that it's because people in the consciousness movement have in general done so much work on themselves that they usually have a pretty good capacity for knowing that they're not their thoughts, knowing that they're not their worldview. So if some information comes along and just shakes their worldview, they can have their worldview shake without thinking they're going to die, and actually hang in there and, entertain a few different thoughts that conflict at the same time, and then go ahead and sort out the truth. And I think that that's a lot of what's going on right now, is people are sorting out by discernment, their capacity to discern. I have one relative who I'm very close to, have been for years. And he actually lives in Marin. And he told me after Thrive 1 came out, we were sitting on a porch together talking, and he said, "Foster, listen, I know that you're not stupid." He says, "I know that you do your homework." But he said, if what you're saying in this Thrive movie, if that is true, I just wouldn't be able to handle it emotionally. So I'm making a choice just not to go there. Wow. And I said to him, "Thank you very much." I said, "You just clarified for me the response I've gotten from so many people who, get up and leave the room when I walk in or something, but who never could verbalize it like that." And, now here we are, 8 years later, and he's actually waking up to a lot of what's going on. But I took him seriously. When someone says they can't handle something, you don't know what they've been through. You don't know what they're up against. It's really important to take them seriously and just say, "Well, if you ever want to talk about this, I'm available." but not to have to push. And I'll tell you one more little anecdote that I did a show on transhumanism recently, and my guests were my beloved Kimberly and Greg Braden. And Greg he described this little story that really stuck with me. So I'm sharing it all over the place. He said, listen, obviously humanity is bifurcating in so many ways. But most fundamentally, they're bifurcating between fear and freedom. And so there's this fork in the road, and there are a lot of us who are fortunate enough to be following the path of freedom. And people who are following the path of fear, it's very, very uncomfortable. And it's a hard road. He said, so our job is to make this fork in the road so fun, so full of love and truth and excitement and health and spontaneity and creativity, that people who are on that road but beginning to question it look over at us and go, I think I want to be over there with those guys. So I just encourage you to hang in there, Lorna. You are not alone. The numbers may be small in that particular group, but I've seen countless, thousands of people that I know personally who've made the leap, lost a lot of old friends in the process, and then end up not only making all the new friends they could ever want, but the friendships are based much deeper than the old ones. It's not about your where you live. It's not about how much money you have or what race or color or creed or your religious. It's not about that. It's about, okay, are we committed? Is our fundamental loyalty to truth and to freedom? And that's what I love about the group that you guys have burgeoning up there, is it's very clear that it's based on truth, and truth leads to freedom.
Right on. Well, thank you, Foster.
Thank you.
Yeah. Would you like to go?
I'd like to try again, yes. Foster, can you hear me?
Try again, no.
Right.
A little bit louder.
Foster, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name's Kent. We are in need of a communication solution here for this group, and that is something that I've agreed to take on. But instead of reinventing the wheel, I'm wondering if we could become a part of your solutions hub. And if so, if there's a way for me to put energy into helping you with that.
That would be fantastic. And once we launch the hub to open to the public, one of the things that I will be doing is offering trainings. There are about 4 of them that I'll be offering, because I have skills in this area. For 25 years, I was a communication and conflict resolution facilitator in Silicon Valley. So I worked with law firms and Hewlett Packard and Intel and sports teams and elementary schools and everything. So I know a lot about what it takes to make decisions harmoniously and then to resolve conflict when it comes up, as well as how to think strategically, how to think tactically, and how to organize a whole system solutions group. I noted that when we were going around the circle to begin with, Kent, I believe you were the one that said you were glad not to be alone. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm also glad that you're not alone, and that this group knows about you, and the Solutions Hub will know about you, particularly when apparently you have some skills in the communication and relations areas. There's a lot of great people in Marin who have those skills. And I think that's going to become a hub of effective communication and then effective collaboration. So let's you and I connect offline. You can write to me through info@thriveon.com, and just make a note that we connected at this meeting and that I wanted to get your communication, and Mitch will pass it through to me.
Thank you. One more question. Do you have a recommendation for email service that we might use?
Encrypted.
We're using Entreport. A bunch of other email services that we used to use, we abandoned because they were banning people for misinformation and stuff like that. You know, we've been banned just about everywhere, but Ontraport seems to be loyal so far.
Can you spell that for me?
ONTRAPORT.
Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah, one of the things about the security, one of the things that's taking us a little longer and costing a little more than we thought it would on the Solutions Hub is that we're using all of our own servers, and they are resilient, they're redundant in multiple countries and so forth, so that they can't be, so that we can't be taken down, because there's a lot of people will be depending on this for their security. And you know, you can't use Amazon or Google servers and think you're going to be private and secure if you're telling the truth.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, sorry, it's Maureen again from Australia. For the Solution Hub, if a person's not a member of Thrive, how can I actually spread the word out that people become active with it? And I know a few people that would love to, but it's a financial issue. How can I actually spread it amongst them? If you
Well,
can
we've
give
got
us
a
some ideas.
convenient back door right now. So prior to going public, you can join the Solutions Hub if you're a member, if you're a member of my show that's called the Freedom Portal. And currently we have a 7-day free trial. So you can sign up and, you know, look through our archives of shows, attend a show for free and so forth. And while you're a member of the Freedom Portal, if you're committed to that, you can also join the Solutions Hub during this beta testing time. So all that's available at thriveon.com.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. Let me ask a question just to do a little check-in here. Raise your hand if you're familiar with what they call the NAP, or the non-aggression principle. Okay. So it seems like there are a fair number who aren't. And I highly recommend that you watch Thrive 2, because we mentioned it in Thrive 1, but we really go into it in depth much more at the end of Thrive 2. And to me, this is the key that unlocks the door to thriving for humanity. Because I think, as I've studied the sweep of history, you know, Martin Luther King was right. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. So we've come a long way from the pharaohs and the kings to the dictators, but now we've got the premiers and prime ministers and presidents and so forth. But it's still, it's a huge improvement. But nevertheless, it's still authoritarian rule, and it's mob rule. If you get 51% or you fake your election, now you're in charge and you get to rule everybody. So it's absolutely untenable. And so they've still used that excuse to fool people into thinking that they're taking care of us when they're doing exactly the opposite. So if you think back to, and I've asked a lot of people, okay, what's your core moral compass? What's your core ethic, and where does it come from? And usually I just hear crickets. Mostly amongst liberals, I hear fairness. Well, I just believe in doing what's fair. And that's great. That's very well intended. But the problem is everybody's got a different view of what fair means. And if you think you can impose your view of what's fair on someone else, then you know, they'll turn you into a socialist or a communist or a fascist very quickly. On the right, it's freedom. And that's great. That's actually a little closer to the target. But most people on the right still are trying to tell everybody who they can marry, you know, who they can sleep with, what they can eat, or, you know, all this stuff. So that we need to transcend the political polarity, because it is an intentional puppet show. It's a Punch and Judy show, literally created by the Illuminati in 1778. I've seen the founding documents, and they literally said, okay, we'll divide them into two camps and make them think that they're each right. But meanwhile, they'll be fighting against each other while we're gaining power the entire time. And this, you know, over time, it became communism and fascism, but those really are both the same. It's authoritarian rule by a small group or an individual. So the key is that when you look back in history, it used to be that whoever had the biggest club ruled, or the biggest gang or whatever. And then a big step was taken with the advent of religions during the Enlightenment and so forth. So when, things like the 10 Commandments and the ethics of Judaism and Islam and so forth, it was a huge step toward the survival of the human species. However, each religion, practically each subset of each religion, has a different idea as to what the word of God is. So they ended up being the bloodiest mass murders in the history of humanity, was the Crusades, all the religious wars, until the next one came along. Because, then the kind of the Roman law, the rule of law, right to trial, all that kind of stuff came in. And again, that's a huge leap in the right direction. However, as long as it's ruled by an authoritarian state, then the law will be taken over by the state, which obviously it has. You can see the examples in almost every case. So both of those were big steps toward a universal morality. What we need is a universal morality. And I believe that the only candidate that I've ever seen for a universal morality, and it's the perfect one, is the non-aggression principle. The non-aggression principle, if you're not familiar with it, basically says that no one is allowed to initiate force or fraud against anyone else except in true self-defense. So it sounds obvious. It's like, well, isn't that the golden rule? Well, it's actually better than the golden rule, because someone else, might want force initiated against them. And so then the golden rule kind of breaks down, but it's actually really simple. And when you're talking about truth, the communists through the universities in the US have had 2 to 3 generations now of convincing people, this whole postmodernism thing, that there's no universal morality and there's no universal truth. And so I've got literally grandchildren graduating from college now, and most of them are so lost and confused and miserable and medicated. It's like, oh my God, they've won. We've been co-parenting with the state this entire time, and we didn't realize it. And it's very dangerous. So the key is that when you apply the non-aggression principle universally, then you can't have a government, because a government doesn't survive without taking people's money against their will, because that's what funds the government. Always has, always will. That's why every single government is corrupt. People keep waiting for enlightened leadership. You can't have enlightened leadership in a corrupt system. So this is where, if you keep going for the truth, this truth will lead to virtue. If you really keep going with the logic of non-aggression, it's going to lead you to not aggressing against people and not allowing your tax money to hire people to go take somebody else's oil, or to go lock them down, or make them take shots, and all that kind of dangerous stuff. So the non-aggression principle is the only thing that Kimberly and I have found in traveling all over the world, the only thing we've found that everybody agrees to. Every single human being that we've ever met does not want to be violated against their will. If you're into whips and chains and so forth, and that's voluntary, that's fine. That's not against your will. But not a single person. I have met a few, unfortunately, and it's chilling, who they don't want to be violated themselves, but because they're, richer or more powerful or whatever, they think that they should be ruling other people. But that's the disease. That's the cancer that's in the body politic, that it has the human species at risk of extermination right now. So if you follow the non-aggression principle, you will end up in a stateless society, and you will still have all the services. Their independent organizations will make the roads and take care of the sick, and you'll have all sorts of freedom of choice on schools, and you'll have really great security organizations, and all of those organizations will need to compete with each other in a true free market, and individuals will be held accountable to the non-aggression principle. Nobody gets to hide behind government immunity, corporate immunity. No, everybody is liable if they transgress. And this ultimately applies to ecosystems as well. Doesn't mean you can't cut a piece of asparagus or a tree to make your home, but you can't destroy an ecosystem in the process, because that's our life support. So to me, the universal morality is the non-aggression principle, and the universal application of that is what I call voluntarism. And that means that you don't impose yourself on anyone else. No one gets to impose themselves on you. And all of law and justice is based on protecting that fundamental individual sovereignty. That, to me, is what I think is going to lead to a thriving world.
So good. Yeah.
Thank you. Sujata? We have a question here from the group. So Foster, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we've been hearing a lot about med beds, and I've even heard we might get disclosure next month about that. What do you have to say about that? Oh, good.
It got a little bit garbled with the mic. Did you say med beds?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a very interesting topic. I have several friends whose names you would know and who I won't talk about right now, but who are promoting med beds very strongly. And they're actually organizing businesses to bring them here from other countries and so forth. And I'm very excited about the possibility. I'm excited about what I hear. If it's extraterrestrial technology that can really cure things the way that is claimed, I will be very excited about it. I have not met anyone personally, including these people who are promoting and starting the businesses, who has actually seen or experienced a med bed. So I'm still a little cautious. I'm hoping that it's true, but I can't confirm it myself. Along the same lines, there's one other thing I will mention, and it's very interesting that you bring it up now, because there is an inventor, a really top-level inventor, who got shut down doing some health things and some free energy things, but he's put his energy into creating a medical bed. And he's told me about the technology that's involved, and I've talked to people who have gotten tremendous results from it. And he said that he wanted to give one of these beds to Kimberly and me to try. And so we said, great. And so he actually has been driving for the last couple of days, and he arrives in Santa Cruz tomorrow with this bed. He's coming to join us for Thanksgiving. So I don't want to publicize this too far, because I can't have people, by the thousands showing up on our doorstep saying, "Where's the bed?" But we will be trying this, and we will be. Kimberly and I are both very healthy, so we're not great subjects for healing. But we have friends like all of us who are in trouble with various afflictions that we will be sharing this with locally. And then we will let you know the results, whether it's working or not working, and how well it's working. We will keep you posted.
Great. Thank you. Does anyone?
Foster, because I joined a little bit late, it's Maureen from Australia again. This is being recorded, I noticed. How can I make sure I get this out to everybody?
That's up to Debra and Scott.
Yeah, I'll be sending the recording to everyone. Oh, wow. Okay.
That's via the email, Debra, is it?
Yeah, I'll download all your emails from Zoom and everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, guys. We have a question here from the group.
Talk loud. Okay. How many people here have had family problems? Okay. I have a daughter that works for Gilead, right? And so we have been at odds for about a year now. And it's been very difficult to even speak to each other. but I found a solution. And that is I went into my heart, and I recognized how much I loved her. And I decided to have an event or go to an event, like go to a Van Gogh thing, and not a place where we're going to talk, not a place where we're sitting across from each other and having to, I'd have to be silent the whole time. I would just ask her what's going on with her life. My life is all about this, so I can't say anything, So I thought it would be a really good way to connect with her if we just shared an experience, like a Van Gogh thing or something like that. And I'd like to offer that as a solution for for any of you. And both of us have ended our communication with hearts and flowers now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations. I don't know anyone who is not being challenged by this right now. And I love just the compassion and respect that you're approaching it with. Remember the key unknown element in any battle strategy. This goes way back to the shoguns and the ronins and the samurai, is time. You've got to build time into your strategy. And that's why with my relatives who wanted to take the vaccine, I said, listen, I can't make you do it or not do it. I can't make you read or listen to me. What I request is that you give me 2 hours of your time before taking the vaccine. And most of them said, yes, I will. So I prepared an article, some videos, and then some discussion points that I wanted to communicate. And once I had communicated that, I said, thank you. I said, this is what I needed for myself, because I can't control you, but it's a tremendous gift for me to have at least been able to offer you the benefit of my research on this, because we're talking about life and death here. So it means a tremendous amount to me. So I would say that of the family members that I shared that with, I'm probably batting about 70 to 80% of people who actually said, okay, at least I'm going to wait and see what happens with the vaccines. Some of them went ahead and got vaccinated. Some of them have been very sick. And as I mentioned before, that I have some close friends whose children died. One of the leaders of a freedom group down here on the peninsula, he sends out emails every day on all this kind of stuff. He's got a very large freedom group up in San Mateo, and his 49-year-old daughter was willing to listen. She read his emails and so forth, and then she snuck off and got the vaccine because she, didn't want to be left out of her social group or something like that. And 5 days later, she died of a blood clot. If those of you who've seen Thrive 2, you may remember the inventor Maxwell, a young guy in Zimbabwe who invented this new energy technology. And he recently sent me, he was in South Africa installing a device there, and he received some little video clips from a hospital back in Harare. So he sent them to me and then got in a car and drove back, because there were videos of his 9-year-old daughter sitting on a hospital bed with an oxygen mask. And periodically she would just all of a sudden clutch her chest and just writhe in pain. And so he said, Foster, he got back to Harare, and then we got in touch, and he said, Foster, when I got back here, she was dead. And he said, do you think this is like some kind of government intimidation? And I said, Max, it actually looked very familiar, her behavior. I said, was she recently vaccinated? And he goes, oh yeah, they vaccinated all the kids at the school. I said, what did they get? They vaccinated all the kids in the school, diphtheria, Gardasil, and the Chinese COVID vaccine. So this is now happening all over the world, and it's intentional. So this is the time. vaccine, the vaccine mandates and vaccine passports, this is the red line in the sand. And this is why, if any of you don't have Bobby Kennedy's book, it just came out a few days ago. It's the #1 best-selling book in the country already. The #2 best-selling book is Mickey Willis's book on pandemic. Exactly. There's the book, if you can see that on Zoom. And particularly read the last chapter. Bobby is a phenomenal lawyer because he does his homework. And when we had a strategy session with him a couple of months ago, and I said, Bobby, what's it going to take to bring down Gates and Fauci? And he just smiled and he said, if you get me in a deposition room with them and their history. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I've got a 1,300-page legal brief that lays out the whole case against them. I said, okay, well, what's it going to take to do that? And he gave me an amount of money that it would take to bring that case. I said, if the case goes to trial, will it go to a judge or a jury? And he said, it won't matter. He said, if I can get in a deposition room with, it's done. And so anyway, Kimberly was there, and if Kimberly hears about a possibility like that, she makes it happen very fast. So the money has already been raised. Somebody put up $1 million matching grant, and it was raised within a few weeks. And that lawsuit is in process now. And I think a lot of I haven't seen his legal brief, but I think a lot of the evidence is exactly what he laid out in that book. So Kimberly and I just, we bought 5 of them and we just pass them out. Whoever comes into the house that doesn't have one, I don't know a better investment you can make. Particularly, we have one relative who was very skeptical of us. I mean, he thought that we were nuts. He thought we're nice people, but crazy. Until he was told, he's a firefighter, and he was told that he was going to be laid off if he didn't take the vaccine. Fortunately, he and his wife have listened to us enough that their kids are not vaccinated, and they're homeschooled in order not to be vaccinated. So now all of a sudden it was coming down on him. And he said, well, Foster, maybe I'll need to do it, in order to keep my job because I'm very close to getting my pension, all this stuff. And I said, listen, ask your kids, would they rather have your pension or you in their lives? Because this is life and death stuff. And so he applied for a religious exemption and got it. I have another son-in-law who is a emergency room nurse. He applied for a religious exemption. It was denied. He's now part of a lawsuit working with Children's Health Defense, and they're, the doctors and nurses are getting together and going after them. And so even if you can get an exemption, it doesn't solve the problem. It just gives you some more time to work on the problem.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, since we're all quite aware of the difficult, troubling, and disturbing situations in the world, what of all the positive things that you are aware of in terms of situations that you are absolutely certain of can give us some encouragement and hope and inspire us that things are, in fact, making good breakthroughs in the positive direction we all want?
Oh, thank you. That's my favorite question. There's nothing I would rather talk about because that's why I'm so confident. That's why we made Thrive too, because of what we're seeing. So let me just outline a few highlights. I am quite confident that the big dominoes are about to start falling. And by that, I mean the first domino to fall will be election fraud. The election fraud in the 2020 presidential election was so massive that people they're not going to be able to deny it. Most people, once they see it. And the amount of forensic evidence that was captured is absolutely astounding. From literally every county in the United States, they've got all the electronic packets. They've tracked where it was sent over to Spain and China and Italy and North Korea, changed the votes, send it back and everything. And remember, Kimberly and I are not political. So this is not about, I want Trump instead of Biden. While we're in a government system, and I hope we won't be relatively soon, while we're in one, at least we have to have honest elections. And we don't right now. The thing was tremendously rigged. And so that evidence is being presented. Oh, wow. Today, the 23rd of November, it's being presented to the Supreme Court. So they're going to have to make a decision as to whether or not they're willing to look at the evidence. You know, they turned down some states thing before, but this evidence is so massive that there's never been anything like this in history. If the Supreme Court justices deny looking at the most egregious election fraud in history, then I don't think they'll be able to keep their job. So I think that's the first one that's going to fall. And when people realize, oh, our country was just stolen out from under us by the deep state using the Chinese Communist Party. See, over 60% of the votes were changed in China. And I did a show on this. If go join the Freedom Portal for free and look at my election fraud show. It lays out the entire thing. I pulled all the best clips and the best forensic evidence and just put it into an hour and a half. And so that's going to be the first one. That's going to wake up at least America to that the same things going on here that we've been doing to other countries for decades. And so a lot of people are going to be going, oh, you mean I can't trust the government? Where I think the second domino to fall is going to be the COVID scam. Because, okay, if I can't trust the government and the government's telling us we have to be vaccinated and they're shutting down our businesses and all this stuff, well, maybe I'll take a second look at that. So I think the whole COVID scam is going to come out because the evidence is huge there. And Bobby's case and Reiner Fulmick's case, and there are just thousands of cases being presented in the US and also globally right now. And that's usually when it turns, is when the verdict's about to be announced on these cases. That's when people start running for the hills or trying to settle. But so that's the second. It'll go from, I think, from election fraud to COVID to pedophilia. And the pedophilia thing is so rampant. It is now overtaking drug running as the major source of funding for CIA covert projects, for the secret space program, for the whole deep state. Is they're literally collecting billions every year from the trafficking of children. It's the most disgusting. I mean, I've been down all the rabbit holes as deep as I can go. And this is the single most disgusting one of all, that this kind of satanic behavior is being perpetrated on the most defenseless among us. I mean, if that doesn't get you to be an activist, I don't know what will. And as I mentioned before, Trump was going after this. There's a lot of weird stuff about Trump, but he was not a part of this same deep state. The head of our security team for 20 years has known the head of Trump's security team for 30 years. And so I get a lot of information on, what's this guy really about? And the reason he had a painting of Andrew Jackson in the Oval Office, because Andrew Jackson was his hero. Jackson spent his entire administration fighting the central bankers. And it's the central bank that enables the deep state, the whole fiat money, fractional reserve thing. And Jackson survived 2 assassination attempts. Trump has survived 3 already. And so that's why it's his hero. So there's a lot of weird stuff about him, but there's a lot of really good stuff also. He actually was trying to restore the American economy, and it's really lifted more people out of poverty and unemployment and so forth than any presidency since before the Federal Reserve in 1913. So anyway, the pedophilia thing he was going after. And the pedophilia is not just a disgusting perpetration on the kids, it's a control mechanism for the global deep state. If they allow anybody up into these positions, they make sure that they have something on them, what they call collateral. They've got videotapes of them having sex with kids, or they've got some kind of fraud or whatever it takes to control them. They don't allow most people. That's why both the right and the left was trying to get rid of Trump when he got in, because he was fighting the deep state. And the deep state is right and left. So the third one to fall will be the pedophilia, because the evidence is already in. I did 3 shows on that last month. I laid out the whole history of it. And then we had 2 fantastic survivors, Kathy O'Brien and Serena Faith Masterson, who are radiant, loving beings, having survived and healed from the worst imaginable torture and abuse at the hands of these psychopaths. And so people are saying, people are saying, I knew I had to go down this rabbit hole someday. I just didn't realize that I could go down there and come out feeling empowered and uplifted. So check out those shows too, if you don't know about that topic. So that's the third domino. And then the last domino, which is really all the rest of them, is the whole banking and government scheme itself is going to be exposed. There's two giant cons in history. The main one is authority. And almost everyone on the planet believes they should be ruled. And that's the one that's got to disappear. And it's starting to happen really fast. And this is a very powerful piece of evidence of why we don't want to be ruled. So once somebody gets to rule you, the first thing they're going to do is change all the laws so that they can stay in power and increase their power. Second thing they're going to do is take over the money supply. And once they got those two, once they got the power and the money, then it's off. It always turns to absolute mass destruction, as it did under Mao, Pol Pot, Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini, and now it's happening again in the United States. It took over 200 years, but here we are.
Wow, thank you.
Oh, let me say one more thing, because those are the dominoes, and that's hopeful, but that's still, it's exposing the bad news. But there's one more really important piece that I find a lot of people don't know. I had three major prayers when we were making Thrive 1. The first one was that we would survive. The second one was that that Thrive 2 would get out, and and that the internet would survive so that it could get out. And it's now been documented over 93 million views, and it's still viral every month. So people want to know the truth, and they want to know what they can do about it. But my third prayer was that there was some force, either extraterrestrial or planetary, that was more powerful than the Illuminati, Rothschild, Rockefeller, cabal system. But that was a wing and a prayer for me, because I didn't know any of them. I had high hopes for extraterrestrials, and I still do. I believe that we are being hugely assisted. They can't do it for us, because we're like toddlers on a jungle gym. We need to learn how to climb to the top, or else it's dangerous if they just put us there. But they are turning off nuclear silos. They're helping us in our meditations, in our prayers. So that's a major source. But the other source is, I think we got contacted by what's called the Asian Dragon family. And this is millennia old royal families in China, Japan, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. And these are the wealthiest people on the planet by far, way more wealthy than the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. They have football field sized gold troves. The Japanese alone have over 100 of them hidden in the Philippines, where they put their gold after World War II, when they saw it wasn't going well. But anyway, so we need three things, I believe, to win this thing. First, we need truth. And groups like yours is doing that. This is what Thrive is doing. This is what Del Bigtree and Andy Wakefield and Sayer G and all these folks are doing. So the truth media movement is growing really fast, and it's unstoppable. CNN has about 750,000 viewers now during prime time in the evening. You and I know podcasters who have way more than that, almost on a daily basis. So the lying and the socialism is dying on the vine. So that's number one. We need to continue the truth telling. Number two is we need force. I'm a martial artist for 25 years, particularly in the martial art of Aikido. And that's committed to nonviolence if possible. And so we need force to protect freedom. And the force that is most readily available is what's called the White Hats. If you don't know about them, look them up. There's been a lot of confusion created by the QAnon thing, because I think the QAnon may have partially been a CIA cover to try to scoop a lot of real truth into an unverifiable cover and then write it all off as conspiracy theory. But the white hats are very real. And I know a lot of them. I've worked with them for 10 years and they're in the military, they're in the intelligence agencies. A lot of them are retired and in major corporations now, and they are fighting for freedom. And the military is willing to take a stand, and they are ready to protect the exposure of the election fraud and so forth. And they're mostly Christian patriots, and they're very noble. They're very dedicated. I don't agree with them on everything, but they are a force for good who at least wants to restore the republic, which would be a real step in the right direction. And then the third thing we need is money. We need a ton of money. You know, with the Davos crew at the last WEF, the World Economic Forum, where they're trying to bring in this, you know, the Great Reset is the new name for the New World Order, one world government, global domination agenda, by whatever name. You know, it's like, well, it keeps changing name to try to be marketed, but they went around the table at the end of the meeting to raise money for, you know, to create the narrative and all that kind of stuff. They just went around the table and raised $700 billion.
Whoa.
That's what we're up against.
What?
Fortunately, we've got the truth on our side. We've got life and and love on our side, but also we've got the Asian dragon elders are on our side. I've been in communication with representatives from four out of those 5 countries. I've been there to visit with them. I spent 3 weeks in China, spent days in the Philippines. Kimberly and I were invited to a ceremony when they were a week-long ceremony when they were going to release a huge amount of humanitarian funds out of Indonesia. We were invited by the prince, who's the M1, the guy in charge of all the money, all the gold there. And so we had our security team check it out, and they said, no, it's premature, don't go. It's too dangerous because the Bush-Clinton cartel is all over this one, and they're not going to let it happen. So we didn't go, and the prince himself and 2 of my friends, one from the US and one from Australia, who went, they all got poisoned. They all survived, I'm happy to say, but there have been 3 at least major attempts to release humanitarian funds, because their spiritual covenant, all these Asian elders, they have a spiritual covenant, and I've been involved in their spirituality, and they have been educating me in it, and it is super profound. They're very serious about this, and their covenant is to spend 80% at least of their wealth, and we're talking quadrillions. They spend 80% on the best humanitarian projects on the planet to basically reboot all the debt on the entire planet, and then bring in the best decentralized projects. And that's why they contacted us back in 2013, because they saw what we were doing with so many different types of projects. And so we went over there and visited them. We presented 75 projects, and they said, if we can release the funds, you know, we'll start with 300 million and you'll get whatever you need after that. But so, you know, we were looking forward to that. It still hasn't happened. They have tried, and 10.7 billion got stolen by a New York bank. Another guy got poisoned in Hong Kong when they tried to release it. But they're continuing to move on this, and it will happen. And they want to fund the best projects. They said to us, we've got the money, but the world doesn't know who we are. They don't trust us. They said, you need the money, and the world knows who you are, and they trust you. So let's work together. And so I said, as long as you can prove yourself trustworthy and actually come through, I said, I'd be a terrible employee. No, I don't want to work for you. I don't want you to work for me, but let's work together on this as long as we can continue to trust each other. And that is continuing to happen. I'm confident that I don't know what the timing is. I've learned not to predict timing, but the patterns that I'm absolutely convinced of the reality of this. And I just don't know the timing, but that to me, all my prayers were coming true. And that's some great news to me.
And from the Zoom, I think Deborah Peach has a question.
Oh.
Hi, Foster.
Hi.
It's Deborah Peach. You were on my first show, Wake Up Shift is Happening, back in 2012.
I remember.
Yeah, and I have visited you and Kimberly at your home.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you just brought up about the Asian families, because if you remember, I am very, very committed and involved with the GCR, with the Revive, right?
Yep.
And we are back in a pattern of a time releasing.
Right.
And yeah, so and this is my husband, Scott. You haven't met him yet.
I've seen him on videos. I've seen you guys together. Very good.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So one is about the GC. We are very much in a time frame and a window of that being able to actually come into fruition. With a lot of divine coordination, we've been moved to the front of the line, and it's been years of working with the asset files and the people, like you mentioned, that have the front people for all these assets around the world, right? That's one of the things I just wanted to share with you, because I know that was one of the conversations, the other that we've had in the past. And yeah, it is absolutely imperative. It's, I've been field for this GCR for 11 years. And you and Kimberly are very much about holding a unified field. And it is imperative that we as humanity come together in a unified field to call in this prosperity, right? To claim it. One of the things, and we missed the first hour because there was issues with the link. So there's a lot that we did miss, and we'll go back to listen to the recording. But one of the things that I also would love to chat with.
Your sound is cutting out.
Yeah, is it? Okay, is that any better?
That's better, yeah.
Okay, so we've gotten involved with
Yeah, it's still cutting out.
It's still cutting out. That's weird.
Maybe the NSA is bleeping certain words.
Okay. Is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay. Private membership associations.
Yeah.
Okay. You familiar with them yet?
Yes. In fact, I mentioned them earlier on the call because
Okay.
one of the things that's happening locally is doctors and nurses who are being laid off are starting to organize local health groups.
So that is, if we can actually have a conversation outside of this, maybe in the next couple of days or week, I'm going to reach out to you anyway. And I didn't know that you guys were doing this tonight until a few days ago. So there's a lot of different things with the projects that we're holding space for and putting into fruition, and the people that we have that are collaborating. I would love to see how we might be able to collaborate and bridge.
Yeah.
And really engage with that unifying, right? One of my mottos is unify, strategize, or unify, organize, strategize, and execute. And you and Kimberly have always walked your talk for how many decades now? And very much acknowledge you for all of the work that you guys have done and continue to do. So it's really, it's an honor to actually be here and engaging with you, and really respect what you're doing.
Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate that. And it's really great to see you again.
You too.
I'm glad you haven't lost the confidence either in what's going on.
No.
Hey,
I'd like to say one other thing, because I saw somebody in regards to and challenging it was to have this conversation about President Trump. If I can just share this, because I believe everything that Foster is saying is spot on. And if I can just share quickly my experience, I stopped voting in 2004. And the crazy thing is, I shared that in Deborah's living room. years ago, and people were mortified. Now, this was probably 7 years ago. They were mortified. And I was like, no, I knew back then it was rigged. I knew that my vote was being changed. And I did not vote in the 2016. Scott and I were just actually moving back from Australia. But I want to tell you something that I was very, very surprised about. And that is, I am very telepathic. I get very detailed information. Debra will attest to that. And it was a week after the election. And we had just purchased a 5-acre spiritual retreat center up in Mount Shasta. We had, finally were just sitting to tune in. And my guides and God came in and said, Trump has been shoehorned in for humanity. And my response was, what the fuck?
Right.
And I said, Scott, I go,
oh my God, my guardian angel's Republican.
And I go, oh my gosh, we've got to clear the field right now because I want to make sure this is an imposter energy, right? Because I'm very aware of all the demonic energies and infiltration. And basically what came in, you guys, is that what was being said is the beings, and you mentioned extraterrestrial, Foster. There are guides and beings of light all around the universe and many universes that are pelting us with light right now, because we've got to rise in this awakening, right? And so, yeah, what was said to me basically was, he's no saint, but he's got the balls to do what needs to be done right now. And that's how it was communicated. And, right? And
Buds.
you know, and the thing is, for people that have a tough time with him, you've got to understand why there's so much projection. There's black magic being done to, you know, even around red hats, red sweatshirts. Now, people wearing them, it's like you're considered a racist or, you know, whatever. We've got to have our discernment. And Foster, everything you shared of the things that need to be done, I think absolutely spot on.
Right. Thank you, Debra.
Thank you.
I just wanted to comment really quickly. There is a private membership association, whatever that is, the PMA workshop on the 29th and 30th here in Santa Cruz. If anybody's around, I'm going to be taking it.
Right.
So I'll spread that information to Debra Giusti, and maybe they can zoom in or something. Just wanted to put that out there. That is something that we could use for strength.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions? We have a question in the room.
Foster, I have a comment / question. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Great, thanks. First, I want to personally, we've never met. I haven't watched your movies, but I kind of get who you are. And I want to thank you for your courage and your spiritual courage, especially.
Thank you.
Yeah, really. And we all have tens of thousands of generations of ancestors. Okay? So we all have basically a very certain lineage, every human being. It goes back 200,000 years if you're Homo sapien. And that culture was, as it evolved, was a coherence of spirit, mind, body, community, purpose, nature, all as one flow. I've met indigenous people that are still part of the continuance of that culture. And so we have that, and those qualities for connection on all those levels embedded in our DNA. What we don't know that's certain is the future and the unborn and the world that they live in. However, the ancestral energy goes back, I mean, really, it goes back, what, 13.5 billion years or something? So that's a lot of momentum, right? For life.
Yes.
in the work that you do, in your worldview, and in your ponderings, how would you, what might you say about developing, cultivating, becoming aware of personally, intrapersonally and interpersonally and in community, awareness of the ancestral as an element of forward movement towards long-term, multi-generational solution into the future for human freedom and truth?
Yeah, that's a beautiful inquiry, and one I'm very interested in. I've been exploring a lot the last few years in plant medicine, particularly ayahuasca, with some shamans down in Costa Rica, and they're very focused on that. And in a way that I've been learning a lot from, because just like you laid it out really beautifully, that we are connected really infinitely to our legacy, to our ancestors, and all that legacy shows up right now in our DNA, in our consciousness, and that's why the plant medicine can work on, it can assist you in clearing your entire DNA history, because it's all there right now. And in the process of doing that, we prepare ourselves for whatever we're called to do next. And I think that's what the ancestry has been heading toward. And to the degree to which you can clear yourself, in Thrive 2, I call this the science of love. And what my guess is that most of you in that room up there, in the consciousness movement, in Marin, with this kind of truth telling going on, you've done a lot of work on yourself, and it's critical, because what I recommend to people is approach the practice scientifically. It's not it goes on and on, but there's not boundless challenges right now. We really need sufficient mastery over our body, our emotional flow, our mind. And when we do that, then that opens up our torus, our energy vortex, for spirit to just pour through. Spirit is, obviously naturally who we naturally are. And then once that's back in equilibrium and open, then you need to master the interpersonal skills and the environmental skills. And really, that's it. It's kind of a closed set. It's an open universe, but it's actually just like 5 items there. If you dedicate yourself, as many of you have, to mastering each of those things, that to me is who we need to be to not only survive and thrive right now. And a critical part of it is clearing our DNA, because I've gotten into discussions sometimes with people who they don't want to hear about the bad news out there in the world, because they think if you give it attention, it'll grow, and they just want to stay in the spiritual vibe and so forth. And I said, yeah, the spiritual vibe is great, and it's up to everyone what you choose to do or not to do. But I've been working very closely with some of them, particularly through Uplift, to realize that this spiritual work that we've all been doing, this is the center of the torus. We've been doing the work to find our center that then connects us, because we're all open at the center, because we're all toroidal systems, that connects us with the entire universe, the entire cosmos. And that's the unified field. So when we center ourselves in our meditation, in our dance, in our yoga, whatever it is, in our nutrition, whatever your practices are, then the unified field can speak and act through us. And what I see going on is the immune system of the planet is being engaged now like never before, because the entire planet and the entire species is at risk. So the immune system of the entire species as well as with the help from extraterrestrials and the plant beings and all of that. It's all coming to alignment. And it's not like, okay, well, whose idea shall we organize around? No, you're aligning with the entire cosmos. That's why it's so powerful. When you align your body, your emotions, your thinking, and your acting, that is the experience of being in love. That's why we all want to be in love. It's not about this particular person or that particular person. It's being in the great love. That's what the I from Aikido means, the great love, being in harmony with life energy itself. And that's the place from which we can hold the space to then take the necessary action, speak the necessary words to actually get through this particular rabbit hole, because there is light at the other end of the tunnel. Now, that's why I was so inspired by what you all said in the beginning, because you're already there. You'll learn more about this and that, you'll work on your skills, but this group is already there. You essentially know what's going on. You know who you are. Now it's just a matter of, okay, when I get up tomorrow morning, what's the best use of me? That keeps me in balance, that keeps me thriving, but at the same time contributes to all of humanity and Earth and the cosmos thriving. When I talked before about a universal morality, I didn't mean just universal on planet Earth. When I step on an extraterrestrial ship for the first time, I want to be very clear that no matter how impressive they are, I'm not subjugating myself to them. I don't want some impressive species that they can do, psychokinesis and telepathy. I don't want to bow down to the next gods and have them take over planet Earth. We've already gone through that for thousands of years. So it literally is a universal morality. And no matter how advanced any particular species is technologically, spiritually, emotionally, the core true north of our moral compass is what we've been missing. And that's why our entire movement is based around the non-aggression principle in everything we do. It's the only requirement for joining the Solutions Hub, is that your solutions do not involve in the initiation of force.
Can I briefly reply to that?
Sure, please.
Somebody asked me about 8 years ago after these shootings all over the country, what's the matter with men? And it just popped out of my mouth, men are not initiated anymore. Whatever goes on in a fraternity, that's not an initiation, that's a condoning. We all get to justify each other's bullshit, kind of a thing, Initiation must be an intergenerational community event. And your gift when you come back from your vision quest must be witnessed by those who passed through that portal before, the elders. That's the connection with the ancestral. So in review, how do you see the place of initiation in society at this time to help us cross the threshold from the effects within our own personalities, characters, beliefs of our personal trauma, family trauma, community, national trauma, historical trauma, into being clear enough to be receptive to these aspects that you just spoke of?
Yeah, that's where it goes from the principles into practice. And fortunately, I totally agree with you that we have been missing initiation. When I did the S training in 1976, about halfway through, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm actually in a real initiation for the first time. And it wasn't candles and incense and so forth. That's great if you want to have, if those things help with initiation. But the initiation was, this room is dedicated to the truth of who we are, how we can heal, and how we can help each other like nothing I'd ever seen before. Right. And then there was lots of other projects like that around the country and around the world. I know Marin was a real hub of it. I have several siblings living in Marin who were involved in that and with the Hunger Project and so forth. That was a major shift of consciousness on the earth that went on around that one. And that's just one. Like you said, vision quests and plant medicine, Vipassana retreats, all of these are initiations. But I love that you're bringing it up, because I think what we haven't inspected is what's the nature of an initiation. And when we were planning Thrive 2, that was my major question. Is I did a plant medicine journey where I asked the plant for guidance in how to create Thrive 2. And the guidance that I got, two main areas of guidance. The first one was they showed me a lot about visual effects. And the plant knows a lot about visual effects, as some of you know. And so you'll see, if you haven't seen it in Thrive 2, we've spent some time on that. But really on purpose. The second one that I got was that Thrive 2 needed to go beyond entertainment, beyond information, and be an initiation for humanity. So, and it resonated in every cell in my being. So I spent a few months asking people. I would call up teachers that I knew. I would, if I was at gatherings, I would ask publicly, say, okay, what is initiation? What is the key to a successful initiation? And it was really helpful, because I probably got 100 different sources of input. And the two key things that came out from when I collated all that was, one, you die. Now, of course, this is unless you're doing a near-death experience, it's a figurative death. Who you thought you were in some way dies. And that leads to the second one, which is you see life through a different lens for the rest of your life after that initiation. And so that was our intention for Thrive 2. And that's why we started out the whole movie with I'm walking in the redwoods in the beginning, contemplating my own death. And that because my own relationship to my own mortality is what's opened me up to doing all this research, the science, the conspiracy, the spiritual, the communication, all of that has been enabled by my getting beyond my fear of dying. I treasure life, and I don't want to go any sooner than I need to. This is an awesome planet and I want to be here. And leaving my loved ones, I know would be very, very challenging, but I'm not afraid to die. That's one of the reasons why I can do the work and not worry about either the risk of being taken out or the risk of losing friendships because people don't like what I'm saying, because I know who I am. I know who you are. And we're all eternal, boundless cosmic beings who are having this particular, drop in the ocean on this planet right now. But it's not just some random, this is a really important one. There's no time I would rather be alive that I've ever read about than right here, right now. Not only because we get to be peaceful warriors in the most critical battle for survival that humanity has undergone, but also because as we win, we get to be here to actually experience the thriving world that we've all been dreaming of, envisioning, and really working our butts off to create. And I include every single person who's on this call. It's a privilege to be among you all. And it's really a joy to wake up into this kind of purpose is really a joy.
Yes. Yeah. I'd like to say something. I'm Barry Barron. I'm a psychologist. I've worked 46 years to develop knowledge integration. And I'm really delighted with having this Solutions Hub providing such a great support and facility tool. Now I've been working for a number of months now to develop a space called the Unified Knowledge Worldview, and I'm just about ready to launch it. And I just wanted to, I just wrote an introductory thing that I'm going to put onto the Solutions Hub right in the community center there, just to kind of suggest that people might want to look at that. Anyway, there's two sentences, the one at the beginning of that introduction and one at the end that I thought would be relevant to the idea of initiation and also keeping your head up above this hopeless, traumatizing, awful muck that we look at, that we have to deal with. It's unnecessary, but is there. So first of all, the Solutions Model's motto is right on the Solutions Hub, and it says, to effectively self-organize worldwide, we need a common definition of terms and shared organizational frameworks. And that's sort of what we're doing here. We're kind of talking about what terms we use and the organizations that we can coordinate with. So that's a very valuable motto for the Solutions Hub. And this ending sentence that I was talking about is to show that, someone just talked about the huge line back to ancient times that we are evolving out of. But there's a other side of this is from above that comes to us. And so in this sentence, I say, all souls share a common connection to celestial consciousness through conscience. As each of us practices reverence, trust, and heart, we generate and sustain a thriving vitality of health, wisdom, wealth, and happiness. The unified knowledge worldview endorses conscience guidance. That's it.
That's beautiful, Barry. Thank you for sharing that. And, our Solutions Hub is organized like everything we do by 12 sectors surrounding a 13th. And I learned this from Buckminster Fuller. And that's the fundamental, that's the vector equilibrium. That's the mother geometry of the entire universe. So we've structured all of our solutions processes and infrastructures on the vector equilibrium and the torus. And the center one, there's arts and science and justice and media and spirituality and so forth. The center one is worldview, because we all see whatever sector we're working in, we see it through our worldview. So worldview is a particularly highly leveraged sector, because to the degree to which your worldview is accurately aligned with the way the universe is actually functioning. But this brings it full circle back to the name of your group there. What is truth? That's what worldviewing is. It's refining continually your sense of what's actually true. Now, I looked up in dictionary.com to see, okay, what are they saying these days that that truth is? And it actually says, the definition of truth is actuality or actual existence. I think that's a good one. The reality is here, and then we each see it in our own different ways, but a lot of the spiritual challenge and the thriving challenge is, how can we align ourselves and then align all of our systems with the way the unified field actually works? Well, let me say one other thing. And while we're on initiation, I just want to share a personal story and invite your prayers and just your sending light. My beloved Kimberly, who many of you know, most of you know of at least, she's my most profound teacher. And she, 2 weeks ago, was in Half Moon Bay going to a parking lot, and suddenly a security gate, those arms that come down after a car passes through into a parking lot, came slamming down on her. And fortunately, she heard it and she was able to deflect it so it didn't hit her in the head, because it could have killed her. And because there was no safety mechanism at all, it just came slamming down. It knocked her to the cement and shattered her hip. And
oh man!
She was taken in an ambulance to to Burlingame, where they took good care of her, I'm happy to say. And she had a terrific orthopedic surgeon whose specialty was hips, and he replaced her whole hip the next day.
Wow.
And so we're 2 weeks into this, into her healing process. Unfortunately, she's, she was super fit and very much into nutrition, everything. So she was in ideal condition if somebody had to go through this. But also my point is that she also spiritually, her attitude, she said to me once she kind of got through the shock and the, things were starting to normalize a little bit. She said, this has been such an initiation. She said, and it continues to be. She said, I'm looking through a completely different lens at life than I am how I pace myself, what I'm interested in, what's the best use of me, what's really going on. She's seeing everything differently. And that shift in her view is really helping to heal her, both physically and to advance her spiritually. So it's been a phenomenal experience for me as a caretaker to get to watch her literally 24 hours a day, up multiple times in the night, to watch how she has been such a samurai with her spirit of really looking at what's going on, really being present to the pain, being present to the decisions she's making, being present to the incredible outpouring of support from our local community, people who've come by with meals and massage and just flowers and just beautiful things. And I'm not inviting any of that from you. All I'm inviting from you is just hold her in your heart and send healing light, because I know you know how to do that. And she's very receptive to that. In fact, there's a healing group in Marin that my brother's a member of called the Shafa group. It's in, it's either Petaluma or Sebastopol, but it's right nearby you there. And they're doing three times a week. They're doing a concentrated thing. And she reports in after, and she can definitely feel it. So it's really my reflection on, she's teaching me again through going through her next initiation. And also I just welcome all your energy because it feels so great in any way.
Thank you for sharing that, Foster. And we love you. This has been amazing. I want to respect everyone's time because we're about almost 20 minutes over. But like I said, this could go on for days. It's incredible. So any last minute shares that you want to share with Foster?
Thank you. I'm honored. All these new solutions.
Was that Bruce?
That's Bruce. How you doing?
Thank you, Bruce.
Yes, indeed.
And thanks for what you're doing in the group there.
It's a worldwide initiation. We're all going through a near-death experience, and we're up against it.
Yeah.
Very, very well said. That's great. I want to see a meme with your name underneath it.
So any closing comments, Foster, for us?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Say hi to Kimberly. We'll send her love.
Yes. We will.
Yeah.
And thank you, Deborah and Scott, for putting this together and for all the people that are showing up. And thank you, Foster.
You're welcome. And thank you for the honor and the opportunity and the fun of getting to be a part of this. I look forward to being in the temple with you all in person one day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
See you soon.
You.
Be well.
Blessings all.
Blessings.
Okay, I'm going to end the Zoom call.
Bye, Scott.
Good
Love
night,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Love you. Love you all.